Yo, what is going on, Reds fans? Welcome to Reds Reloaded, the podcast where we talk about everything Cincinnati Reds. I am your host, Kyle Luther, a lifelong Cincinnati Reds fan. This is Chandler Patrick. He is also a lifelong Cincinnati Reds fan. Now, guys, we want to talk about the Guardians and Phillies series. It wasn't too bad. The Reds went 3-3. I'll go through each score, and then we'll get into key moments, key players, everything like that. So the Guardians series, we actually won the first game 7-6, tight one, but we lost the next two 4-7 and 3-10. Now the Philly series, guys, we lost that first game 4-5, and then we won the last two 4-1 and 9-4. Now, Chandler, what do you think the key kind of players? What was the turning point for the Reds to get 3-3? Because if you remember right, the last six games that we covered, they also went 3-3. So we kind of got the same record. So what do you got?
All right, so in that first series against Cleveland, for the most part, starting rotation, fine. Brady Singer was the only outlier to that. He did give up 5 earned runs in his start at the end of that series. That game was a complete disaster regardless, right? Losing 10-3, just about everything that could have happened wrong went wrong. And then against the Phillies, really solid, right? Lodolo gave up 3 earned runs. Burns only gave up 1. Abbott only allowed 1 earned run. The bullpen, terrible against the Guardians. They allowed 5 earned runs, then they allowed 4 earned runs, and they allowed 5 earned runs. They were better against the Phillies, only allowing 4 earned runs across those 3 games, and it was really just the first and third game, 2 earned runs each. The second game against the Phillies, they didn't allow any. Overall, that was at least earned runs, right? So we've across those two series, we've seen kind of both ends of where the bullpen has been at so far this year. We've seen the highs and we've seen the lows, and there really hasn't been too much of a in between or a middle ground. And lately, unfortunately, the situation had been the bullpen had been failing us. So you kind of see some common themes. The pitching has to hold up to some extent in these performances. When the bullpen was pitching well, we were able to have some more success overall. The only outlier to that would have been when the bullpen allowed 5 earned runs in the first game against Cleveland, and because Andrew Abbott only had 1 earned run allowed, and our offense gave us 7 runs, that allowed us to win that game. So hopefully, with what they were able to do in the Phillies series, hopefully this is kind of our bullpen turning things around.
Right. So, getting in kind of the key players. I have stats actually here from the last 6 games. Sal Stewart is hitting 304 the last 6 games.
He's 9 for 15 in his last 4.
Yeah, and Ellie De La Cruz is hitting 227 in his last 6 games. So our lineups are kind of finding their rhythm, but it's like our bullpen is now struggling. Where we saw earlier in the season that the lineup was struggling, but the bullpen was on point. What's something different you think we can do in that? Not necessarily, because we got into it the last episode about the bullpen and how bad they're struggling and what the Reds could do. But I mean, I think it's a conversation talk now every single episode that we do.
Yeah, I think something that will probably help when when you look at how our schedule had been going through, the end of April through May, we had a very busy schedule, like throughout a long stretch.
Right.
Um, we didn't have an off day. Like it was the 28th of April, and then we didn't have an off day until the 11th of May. Um, and it was just full road trip. Um, and then you look at um, we faced the Nationals on the 12th, and then going through facing the Phillies on the 20th before we have another off day. So with the off day that we just had yesterday, and then we'll have another off day next Thursday. I'm hoping that those off days being a little bit closer together can help the bullpen have a little bit more rest, because ultimately the starting rotation isn't really being able to give them that rest that they've needed so far.
Right. Talking about the starting rotation, I saw you made the post on our Facebook page. Andrew Abbott over the last 4 games, man. Um, 4 games, 22 innings, .82 ERA, and a 1.13 WHIP. Like he is throwing fantastic. He has completely turned around these last 4 games, and he's now 4-2 on the season. So, what do you have you seen anything different in his windup, or what do you think he's doing different?
Uh, Slight mechanical adjustments. Some of it's a mindset thing. Uh, some of it's just the balls overall just coming out a little bit better. Uh, I will say, obviously, results wise, some things that have helped is less walks, giving up less hits, which was a big problem through his first few starts. Was he was giving up a lot more hits. Uh, Still not quite where we want it to be. Um, you read off the .82 ERA, but he still has a 1.13 WHIP. When you're looking at a dominant stretch like what he's on, you would like to see a WHIP a little bit lower than 1.13. At least a little bit closer to 1, or hopefully under that. He's just given up more contact. I don't necessarily notice anything super major just watching the games, but I'm sure there's little small tweaks that he's making that's helping him find that success.
Right. And you were talking about our bullpen. I have here the Guardians series and the Phillies series. The Reds bullpen had a earn-around average of 587 against the Guardians and a 338 against the Phillies. I think it was a huge turnaround to that Phillies series. I don't know what happened during that Guardian series, but it was like the Reds completely turned around and showed that they can actually pitch. And it's like we say this every time we're on the phone together. It's a complete turnaround for that Reds bullpen, because in the month of April we saw like a dominating bullpen, and I don't know what the problem is now in the month of May. Maybe it's slightly getting warmer, stuff like that. Guys are trying to find their rhythm in the warm weather. But when
Ball's flying out a little easier too.
right, and I think there's a lot more mistakes happening um, in our pitchers, Pierce Johnson, Tony Santillan. I know, was it this Guardian series that Tony Santillan had a really bad outing? I'm pretty sure it was.
Yeah, yeah.
He had a really bad outing. He allowed like
He
a
gave
lot
up
of
a home
hits.
run, and I was like, oh goodness. I remember watching that game. I just saw the ball fly, like it came out of his hand. Next thing you know, I see the ball flying, and it looked like it was going to land on the moon, and I went, yeah, I don't know. I believe I was off of a slurve too, and I was like, yeah.
And I
Our,
think that's something. I think that's something that Tony Santillan needs to find his rhythm.
I think something interesting about that also, while we're talking on the bullpen and you know key contributors, right, and the elite status of where our bullpen was, we were looking at Emilio Pagan, right? He was kind of our struggling guy in the bullpen. Everybody else was performing well. We were looking at maybe who could be the other choices for the bullpen or for the closer role, right?
Right.
And not long after those discussions took place, all of those guys that we mentioned completely fell apart. Graham Ashcraft, Connor Phillips, Tony Santillan. It it has we can't even just say these are the guys in the bullpen that have been struggling because it truly has just been overall the bullpen, the entire bullpen. I think Pierce Johnson has some of the better stats in his last 7 appearances, but I believe he's the only one with an ERA below 3 in his last 7 games. So
Yeah, you got on the talk about Graham Ashcraft. I got Graham Ashcraft stats in the last 6 games. I got 3 games, two in 1 inning, ERA of 15.43. Yeah, you guys heard that right. 15.43. He's gave up 4 runs and only all he had was 2 strikeouts. And I got a fun stat here that I didn't share with you before we started, but I'll share with you now. He threw 12 straight balls on May 16th. He threw 12 straight balls without recording an out. He had the bases loaded too. And it's like he gets the bases loaded and then like, who do you bring in? Because they're all doing horrible.
hey, you wanna let allow me to let you in a little something?
Yeah.
It doesn't put them in a good spot, whoever they are bringing in.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Because they're all struggling. And I really truly think that I think our left-handers out of the pen, Brock Burke, he's not doing too well, and like you said, Graham Ashcraft, Pierce Johnson, Tony Santillan, all those guys are not doing well. I just don't know what the turnaround was from April to May, and I don't know. Maybe we'll see a change, but one can only hope, right?
Yeah, right.
I know you had something on Spencer Steer that you wanted to share.
Oh yeah. So Spencer Steer, we've talked about it um last what 2 or 3 episodes now.
Mhm.
Spencer Steer playing well. Just an update on Spencer Steer. His last 7 games, he's hitting 379, 419 on base, 448 slugging. That brings him his last 30 games a 321 average, 4 homers, 13 RBIs, 12 walks, only 18 strikeouts. This is the closest to 2023 Spencer Steer that we've seen since then, but it's looking even better, really. Um, and my whole point of this is it's like he's just getting even hotter, right? A lot of these guys that we've talked about this year, oh, this is what they've been doing their last, so many games. They're on fire. Well, then they cool off, and then another guy gets hot. Spencer Steer it doesn't matter. The more we talk about it, he just keeps getting hotter and hotter as the season goes on. And another thing that I saw right before we fired this up was he has a hit in 21 of his last 22 games, and he's currently riding an 11-game hit streak.
Wow.
I mean, he is truly locked in, and this isn't just for a series or for a week or half a month or really even just a month. It's going on for quite a few weeks now, dating back to last month. He's just been locked in, and I think one of our most overlooked by many fans, contributors across a lot of our success.
Yeah, because like we talked about in previous episodes, we've talked about South Stewart, we talked about Ellie. Those guys are performing well, but they've had a cold snap too. South Stewart, I mean, in his last 6 games, he has 7 hits, 2 home runs, 6 RBIs, and he has 6 walks. But the problem that I see is he's not April South Stewart. Ellie's not April Ellie De La Cruz. So we're going to need guys in the lineup to step up to show that we can still hit in that lineup and not give up. Because if you remember right, I think Terry Francona is listening to the podcast. I will say that because we've switched guys in the lineup. Like I'm pretty sure we put Matt McClain at the bottom of the lineup, if I remember right.
Yeah, so when we put Matt McClain, when we moved him out of the leadoff spot, he started hitting really well. He had talked to Barry Larkin, and I guess Larkin had given him some pointers, kind of gone over some stuff that he might have been noticing. We know the hitter that Barry Larkin was throughout his career, and Matt McClain instantly had success. I
Right.
believe he had a home run that very next game that they played, and continued to play well going into that Cleveland series, but then since then has fallen off a bit. Yeah, I mean, we've mentioned it before, right? I know you talked about it numerous times. Our current hitting coach situation, is he able to really do as much as somebody else? When you hear about Barry Larkin and how many guys that he's talked to over the years, I remember he used to do it with Kyle Farmer as well. He'll notice stuff that's going on with their swings or their approach. And whenever those guys talk to him about it, it's like they have instant success. I feel like as much as the fan base may complain about him as an announcer, he would realistically be the ideal hitting coach for the ball club because those guys, they have success whenever they've talked to him about their issues.
Yeah, and I think I mean I mention it in almost every podcast episode that we do. Chris Faleka is not it. I'm sorry, he is not it. You were talking last night about him in Cleveland
Yeah.
and how poorly he performed in Cleveland, and then they bring him over to the Reds, and it's like, man, what? And now we're seeing it in the lineup and everything like that, and we're not getting answers out of that lineup.
Yeah, it is going for more of like a high batting average, low power approach, just put the ball in play and stuff like that. And it's hard to get that to really work in today's game in general. But also, we play at Great American Ballpark, right? We shouldn't be afraid to let the ball fly. I understand, if you just put a good swing on the ball will leave regardless. But at the same time, even if you mishit it slightly, if you send that ball to right center field, it's a lot easier to hit it out than you have a slight miss hit and you don't get quite all of it in another ballpark, and then it's a fly out to the warning track or even shorter than that.
Right. And I know we were talking about the lineup, so we'll go ahead and talk about this, and I'll get you the feedback on what people said. Um, Reese Hines got traded. Um, I'll let Chandler announce what they did and where they traded him to. But Reese Hines got traded, guys. My opinion on it, I truly think it's a good trade. He wasn't performing well at at the major league level for the Reds, and I think it was time for him to go. Um, as much as I loved him, he had a few good games with the Reds this season. It was time to move on from that, and I wish the Reds would do more of that with some players. So, Chandler, what do you got on that?
Yeah, so Reese Hines, he was DFA'd early in the week. I believe it was on Sunday, and traded to the Miami Marlins for right-handed pitcher Zach McCambley. Zach McCambley hasn't seen the big leagues quite yet. I know he was picked up in the Rule 5 draft and I believe later returned because he didn't make the big league roster earlier this year. But the Reds were able to acquire something that we've mentioned that they may need: pitching,
Right.
right? We've been able to talk about the guys that we have in the minor league system offensively and position player wise, and we haven't even touched on all of them, right? We haven't talked about the success that Austin Hendrick has been having and how he just got promoted to AAA. And we've mentioned a little bit about Duno. We haven't talked about Michael Chavis really. We've mentioned Noelvi Marte's success, and we have some updates for that um, later on in this episode. But we have all these guys hitter wise. But when you look at our depth with pitching, we've mentioned it before in these episodes. There's some questions surrounding that. We have an influx of outfielders and, hitters overall. We have back like a backlog of guys because we still haven't even seen Edwin Arroyo in the big leagues, and he's been performing like he should be there. So this frees up um, us to have that opportunity that we send somebody that we have in excess, an outfielder, to the Miami Marlins. If I remember correctly, he's from Florida. So it looks like they kind of try to cut a deal where it could bring him back to close to home for a, a right-handed pitcher who, from what I've seen, not just stat-wise, but how good his stuff is, he seems like he could be a pretty good contributor at the big league level, but we haven't seen what he actually will perform like at the big league level. But all projections kind of show that he should be pretty solid for us.
Yeah. So, I got a couple comments on the Reese Hines post that I believe I made. Yeah, it was me who made that. So this one says the Reds always have bad trades. Again, we lose a talent player. Dumb. I mean, at the end of the day, uh, do I think it's a bad trade? No, because the amount of pitching we're seeing, the amount of pitchers we're seeing go down is crazy. And at the end of the day, we could have another TJ Antone where you don't see him for 2 years, 3 years
Yeah.
because they're getting Tommy John surgery. So I don't think it's a bad trade. Reese Hines was not performing well. I believe Chandler, you had his stats from when he was with the Reds, correct?
Yeah, how good and talented can you truly be and undeniable if you're hitting 172 in 122 career ABs. I know his playing time has been in some shorter stints year by year, but think about the Jose Barrero situation that we had a few years ago. If you want to say that they need more playing time to get their stats up, okay, at what point do we draw the line and say enough is enough? And then where are we costing ourselves games by playing them out there when we have other people who could be out there performing really well? I'll say this. Dane Myers, he's been hitting well. We all know JJ Bleday, how well he's been hitting. Since he's um since he's been called up, 22 games played, 299 average, 402 on base, 636 slugging, 6 homers, 20 RBIs, 14 walks, 14 strikeouts. So, lower strikeout rate, high walk rate. Blake Dunn, 11 games since being called back up this year, 357 average, 419 on base, 607 slugging. He has 8 runs scored in those 11 games. When we have guys performing in the outfield, at that point, it's hard to justify Rhys Hines being at the big league club and getting a bunch of playing time and just playing him day after day after day when all these other guys are playing well and, showing that they deserve that playing time. How do you justify putting him out there day after day after day? Kind of like what we've seen with TJ Friedel this year. They cut his playing time. I believe he only played parts in 2 games the last 2 series. You can only justify it for so long. All right, well, let's get him some more reps. But then after that, what? Are you going to have him sit the bench? Well, have him sit the bench, and then they can get some pitch hit appearances occasionally. But he was hitting 121 this year. And he's been hitting 172 so far in his career in the big leagues. And I'll tell you, that number in itself is even inflated because he hit 261 in 2024 because he hit well for a week and a half, 2 weeks. I mean, they sent him down not long after he started struggling. So his numbers in 2024 look great, but people forget why he was sent down sometimes. He's 25. I hope he figures it out. He still has time to. But it truly was time to move on from him.
Right.
Get something out of him.
So since you're talking about Friedel and Dunn and everybody, I'll rack your brain on this one. So supposedly, per reports, Suarez possibly could come back on Friday, right? Who are we sending down? I'll give you 5 players, all right? Hayes, we can't send down. Dunn, McLean, Benson, and Friedel. And here's the thing. I think we could go this route too, and I didn't mention this to you earlier, but I think we could go this route too. Completely eating and DFAing Brian Hayes and eating that contract and just pay him out his $33 million.
We have 2 options. So you said Suarez could be back Friday?
Today.
Right.
Today.
Don't mind me. Sometimes I forget what day we're on. No, but Brian Hayes' bobblehead is tomorrow. if they were to do something with Q Brian Hayes, the timing is slightly off. I think ultimately that's just what we're going to end up having to do. Personally, I think we're just going to end up having to eat that contract and DFA him, and because I don't know if anybody's going to want to trade for him. So, what that means, by the way, anybody listening or watching, if you don't understand that process, it'd get designated for assignment, and then they could, potentially get outrighted to the minor leagues, and they'd have to pass through waivers. They could get picked up by another team, get traded, or just get released and hit the open market. If they get picked up by another team, they will only have to be getting they only have to get paid league minimum, and the Reds will still pay them their salary that they were under contract for. So another team could, just really just let him get released and then just pick him up for league minimum, pay him like nothing, have the Reds still eat that contract. If you guys remember the Jaimer Candelario and Mike Moustakas situations, for example, that's kind of what we're looking at with Key Brian Hayes. I think as of right now, of the names you mentioned, TJ Friedel. We can't justify Blake Dunn being sent down. Matt McClain, he was getting hot and he's cooled off for a couple games. We'll see if he gets hot again. I still kind of want to hold out hope for him, but again, with where the outfielders have been performing this year, I think Friedel would be the one that you send down. You're not giving him playing time at the big league level right now, so send him down to AAA, give him everyday playing time again, and allow him to try to figure it out. And then if he figures it out, we can just call him back up and he can rejoin the big league team.
No,
What would you do?
I completely agree with you. TJ Friedel's, I mean, $33 million. It's like I want to justify that, right? But we don't want that falling back on a contract that we could have put on somebody else. And I mean, me personally, and I think you might agree with me on this, at some point we're gonna have to figure out what to do with Will Benson. Will Benson's not Will Benson's not anything special either. But we know how much Terry Francona loves him from Cleveland, so I don't think he's never gonna be in AAA for a long period of time. Like take Marte for example. I don't think he's gonna be in a standstill in AAA like Marte is, and sit down there, get called up, they get called back down. I mean, Benson's been up here for a while this season, so I think TJ Friedel's our best option right now. He's not performing; he's sitting the bench. So why have him on the roster if he's not going to do anything?
Yeah, so I'll go over some stuff instead of just running out his stat line, because we can just say 171 batting average and be like, well, that's kind of the big enough of a red flag to go. Looking at Will Benson's baseball savant page. So defensively, I know his fielding run value isn't great, but his outs above average, it's in the 70th percentile in Major League Baseball. So he's a solid outfielder defensively overall. His arm just is kind of what holds him back from a value standpoint overall. Not necessarily the arm strength aspect, like how hard he throws, but accuracy, whatnot. He's in the 88th percentile in Major League Baseball with sprint speed. To put that in perspective, he's about as fast as Ellie. I believe he's actually a little bit faster with his sprint speed than Ellie's been this year.
Right.
Average exit velo, he doesn't really qualify to be in a certain percentile with his offensive stats because he hasn't had enough playing time, but 91.7, which is on the higher end of hitters. Barrel percentage as well. His chase rate is among the best in baseball, and his walk rate right now, so far this season, is among some of the best in baseball. But where he's among some of the worst in baseball is his strikeout rate, his whiff rate, so how much he's swinging and missing, his squared up percentage, and his expected batting average. Last year, he ran into an issue where he had a huge discrepancy. He ended up hitting 226, but his expected batting average was 257. A lot of his projections and where his percentile rankings were, he was really looking solid. He just looked really unlucky. This year, credit, he still looks unlucky because there's this discrepancy between that 171 batting average and his 204 expected batting average. But a 204 is not that great either. I don't know what adjustments he needs to make, but I think sending him down, bringing Marte back up would absolutely be the move. I could go over Noelvi Marte's stats in AAA real quick for everybody. He's hitting 31 games played, 123 ABs. He's hitting 374 now, 431 on base, 569 slugging, and an even 1,000 OPS. Between him and Edwin Arroyo, you got to get these guys back in the big leagues. Well, Edwin Arroyo, you got to get him to make his debut, but you got to get Noelvi back in the big leagues. He also has 9 stolen bases. He's only caught once. Out of those 123 ABs, he has 12 walks, which is way better than what he was typically doing at the big league level. 21 strikeouts, 6 homers, 22 RBIs. We need that. I mean, we absolutely need that. Not that, we don't have outfielders performing already, but if there was something to happen to somebody, whether it's just hit a cold stretch or, them get injured, whatever it may be, we need somebody to be there. And Noelvi Marte's been getting a lot of playing time in center field. Does that mean he plays center field at GABP? Or, are they just working on his range and he's just going to be playing right field? At least you have some more versatility out of him. You have more variety of where he can play in the outfield, not just right field.
Right. And I think that's the big question right now. Who do they bring up? Who do they send down? So, guys, we covered pitchers, batters, key moments, key players. So we'll move on to this because I know this is going to take a while. So Chandler decided to make a Facebook post about possible renovations to the Great American Ballpark, and there was a lot of responses. I'll go over most of them because we have more than enough time. So this first one, Greg Hindenbottom. It said, "Be nice if they could move the fence back about 10 feet and make the fence a little higher. Home runs there that wouldn't even make the warning track in some other parks." Do you have a comment on? I know you talked to me about the fence in your standpoint on them moving the fence back.
So I don't want it to be too overly aggressive if they do move it back. We saw what happened in Baltimore I don't want that. If that happened to us, I probably wouldn't go to the ballpark anymore. Like I just couldn't set my eyes on that. Uh, if you guys don't know, Baltimore they pushed their left field wall back, probably in part because of what Gleyber Torres of the Yankees was doing against them, and then he left, so he wasn't even in the AL East anymore. And they had pushed their wall back like 50 feet or whatever it was. It was ridiculous. And then after outrage for a couple years, they ended up bringing it back in a little bit, but not quite where it's supposed to be at. And it kind of turns away hitters from wanting to go play there because of how abnormally deep it is out in left field. So I don't want us to run into a situation where we do that to our ballpark. Something that Joey Votto had mentioned was, just the first couple rows. I think I could get behind that. Just one or two rows in right field, knock those out, all the way from center to down the line and right where the bullpen's at, and then just add an extra. I don't want to go more than like 15 feet. I don't want to add in anything extra than 15 feet. Um, Preferably keep it under 10. I think between 5 and 10 feet extra is enough, because that'll take away those wall scraping home runs that would have been flyouts at the warning track, in a lot of other ballparks.
Yeah, so I'll go through these one by one, and then you can tell your opinion. I'll tell my opinion. So Brian Bradley, he said, put the smokestacks on the boat and put a replica fountain in center field. I don't think I like that, because I guess I wouldn't like that because it's always been the look of GABP. Um, Smokestacks out and right. It's always about the which I don't. It's never happened before, and I don't think it happened. Um,
Yeah.
about the Reds player hitting the sign out in right field. So, and somebody went in a truck. So I really don't think that would be an option because of the uh range of the smokestacks out in center field.
Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of that idea. And in no way, when we're going through these, is it, you know, in no way are we gonna act like we're knocking these ideas. It obviously it's all, depending on each person. Everybody's gonna have their own wants with these ideas. That's the great thing about us making these posts. Everybody gets to provide their very own feedback of what they would do. But just in my opinion, I love the way that Great American Ballpark looks right now. There's really not a whole lot that I would change, except for maybe some small adjustments, changing a little bit of sections around a little bit, but I wouldn't make anything super major. I know some other fans had mentioned before, that I've seen on like Instagram, X. They they're like, "Oh, get rid of that in center field and put an actual boat up there," and I'm like, eh. Like, the point is for you to get the idea and for it to pay an homage to it. Hence the power stacks and the riverboat in center field. I don't think we need an actual riverboat in center field.
Right.
Plus, at that point, then do you take the whole boat and put it on top of the batter's eye, or do you get rid of the batter's eye and now none of the hitters can see the ball coming to the plate because it's going to be white on white?
So I kind of like this response. A lot of the other responses have a lot to do with moving the fence back and making the home runs deeper. I do like this though. This has to do with entertainment. It says Dan McBriar. He said, I feel like between inning entertainment could be upgraded. The helmet shuffle from Skyline, even though that's been just a commercial, it's played out for sure. Have to keep the scoreboard stumpers. It's a highlight. Then some of the in between incidental music needs to be upgraded as well. I realize you have to pay ASCAP fees for popular songs, but if you do want kids in the seats dancing, um, you have to keep it relevant. And I love the crumble cake. Get rid of Mr. Saxabeat. Uh, I also feel like a couple signature walk-up songs would make it fun. Look at other teams. Almost every team has a player that has a walk-up song to a good sing-along song. So the sing-along songs and the walk-up songs, that's completely on the players. The team has nothing to do with that. I believe
Yeah,
they ask the player about what they want, and the player pretty much gets whatever they want.
yeah,
Now
and it
the
and it's home. It's players at home. That's like across the league, right? It's just the home team players. There's no reason to hype up the away players any more than they may already be playing at GABP. Oh, I've
uh,
gone 3 for 3 with 3 home runs because we have a short right field here.
that's true. What do you think about the entertainment? I do agree with him on that. They need a little bit more entertainment in between innings and everything like that. I
You
think
know what
we
I
should.
noticed this year?
What's
They
that?
have a they have a band at the ballpark now. At least when I was there a couple weekends ago. Uh, my buddy came in from New York, and we went to a couple games against the Astros, and we were like just walking up to the ballpark. We heard a bunch of noise, and I was like, "What is going on? Like, is somebody having a band recital or something?" They had a band that they
Nice.
had actually playing. Um, so I'm not necessarily as big of a fan of that per se, but it showed that they are trying new things. That's something I noticed at the games that I've been to so far this year. They're being a little experimental with some stuff. Um, so I think that's a good thing to mention, right? The entertainment being improved and what we could do to improve it, because that definitely has felt like a bit of an area for um, some renovation. Um, Scoreboard stumper, I know that was mentioned as a keep. I think there needs to be more emphasis on that. I
Yeah.
think instead of it just popping up on the board, I think they need to find ways to emphasize it a little more, make it stand out. Because that's some of the most fun that I have at the ballpark. I'm, you know, with friends, or if I'm going to a game with like my cousin. I mean, we're trying to figure out what that stumper is every single time. Um, I know maybe not everybody's into it. I guess the casual viewer versus the diehard, they might not be as into it, but I think it's a lot of fun. Um, do you have any ideas of what they could do specifically to improve the entertainment aspect, like from your perspective?
So I don't see a lot of teams doing this, but here's an idea. All right. So you're getting fans outside the ballpark even before the game starts. I think more entertainment outside would draw fans into the ballpark, right?
Yeah,
And I think that's where the Reds lack because all you see outside are vendors. Uh, maybe you're a typical bucket drum guy, but it's we don't have much entertainment outside. let's bring it outside, draw the fans inside, and then we can worry about the inside. And I think that's where we lack. Uh, but I mean, I think it's a great idea. Bring entertainment outside so you can bring people inside.
Yeah, I agree. I think it'd be interesting if you had a couple mascots maybe outside the ballpark, um, just kind of roaming out there first, and then as the gates open, then you're able to get everybody in there. Give us some, uh, give us some wacky waving inflatable arm flailing tube men out there or something. Like it's a tire shop, and just have some different things.
Right.
Um, yeah, I completely agree with the outside aspect. They have the clock that's out there this year. I will say that has been a hot commodity because trying to get a spot and get up there to actually take a photo at the clock takes forever.
Right.
Um, but they have the statues out in front of the ballpark. They moved where Marty's statue is. It's like kind of like around. I think it's like around the corner from where it was before. But outside of that, and then the team shop and the Hall of Fame museum, which I feel like is a little bit more difficult to even get to now because they pretty much blocked it off. You have to like go through the team shop and then get to it that way.
Right.
If you could make the Hall of Fame a little bit more accessible, um, or at least let it be easier for people to know where it's at and how to get there, um, and then add overall more excitement, music and different attractions, maybe have some games set up out there where you could potentially win some prizes before you even get to the ballpark, right? Get them engaged, give them reasons to show up earlier, and that could also bring in more attention to the team store out there and the Hall of Fame museum, get people to spend some more money.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Um, like I said, that was pretty much it. People were really pressing on the outfield and then moving the fence back and everything like that. I know a guy said that he saw in the Jim Day podcast Joey Votto talking about possibly
Yeah.
moving it back 1 to 2 rows, which you've already talked about that. So, um,
So
guys,
I haven't gone over the ABS leaders this
oh,
episode yet,
go
have I?
ahead, go ahead.
All right. So another post that I put out was I had noticed on X I had saw a post where they were going over the top four in regards to hitters and catchers at ABS challenges in all of Major League Baseball. There's two names that the Reds had on there. Sal Stewart led all of Major League Baseball. He had 10 challenges overturned out of 16 challenges overall. There's a 63%. And he, again, first in Major League Baseball with successful challenges as a hitter. And then for catchers, Tyler Stevenson is fourth in Major League Baseball with 26 successful challenges out of 35 attempts. Um, I think the ABS system is a little bit slept on by some people, especially when you look at catchers. That changes ball games. Um, if if this whole system is to crack down on catchers framing, it can also help with catchers if they notice, oh, that was a bad call, they can challenge as well, right? it really helps define that strike zone. Sometimes a pitcher might miss a spot and he doesn't get the call because the catcher gets, a little crossed up. He wanted it inside, then he had to reach across his body, catch it outside, and he wasn't able to frame it as well. Umpire calls it a ball. The catcher goes, "No, that was a strike." They challenge it, and what have we seen multiple times this year? We've seen, I believe, 2 games so far this year end in a Reds win as off of a walk-off ABS challenge, from the catcher. We saw PJ Higgins in Minnesota, I believe, and then we saw Tyler Stevenson. They both had successful ABS challenges that ended up ending the ball game. I think having that much success should help maybe fans accept the ABS system, at least, Reds fans, right? If we're having success, and we had success starting out the year, we were one of the more successful teams, but you look at South Stewart, good walk rate, lower strikeout rate compared to a lot of people. He's having success with the system. So if you kind of start to realize that they're having significant differences or really true game changing encounters with these ABS challenges, maybe we can kind of get more people to accept the process and notice how it's truly good, or all the good that can come out of it. Did I go over Ellie's rankings among all shortstops in baseball?
I don't think so.
I didn't think so either. He's currently fourth in outs above average. He's tied for fourth in fielding run value. He's first in home runs, second in OPS, and second in RBIs. And that's among all shortstops in Major League Baseball. So, not saying that he's in a running currently for Gold Glove this year, but he's made huge strides defensively. Offensively, he's giving himself a very good chance so far at winning Silver Slugger for shortstops. So we're seeing overall improvements for Ellie De La Cruz. I know the power numbers have slowed down a lot the last month or so, but I mean, his overall performance is just leaps and bounds better than what we've seen before. He's on pace for 188 hits this year, 39 doubles, 3 triples, 36 home runs. Could be wrong. I don't think I'm missing anybody though. But the last person that I can think of that had 36 home runs was Joey Votto in 2021.
Right.
104 RBIs. Or let me backtrack. Joey Votto had 36 home runs in 2017, but he had it'd be the most home runs since Joey Votto in 2021. But yeah, Ellie on pace for 104 RBIs, 29 doubles or 29 stolen bases, 65 walks. Really truly seeing a bit of a breakout year for Ellie, and seeing what he's truly capable of doing at the big league level.
Right. So guys, we're gonna move into some other stuff. So I will say this: here at Reds Reloaded podcast, we are deeply saddened to announce the passing of Kyle Busch. I know it's not baseball related, but he did have a key contribution of why the Speedway Series happened down in Bristol. So we're praying for his family. We send our condolences. But moving on from that, I got the City Connect shoes. What do we think about the new City Connect shoes dropping on May 30th?
My brothers aren't even necessarily into baseball, and they were sending it to me on Instagram. Uh, I think it's going to be difficult. It, you said it is like really limited, right?
It is very limited. I saw that on a news station, actually. It's very limited.
How much are they running for again?
$150.
uh yeah. So I can I'm fine with the price. I mean, a lot of people who are into getting shoes, it's like, okay, I get it. Like it's going to be a big price to pay, especially with them being custom and uh, City Connect. But I think they're going to be so popular that maybe they even underestimate how how quickly they're going to be selling out of those. I don't know if it's going to be just a limited quantity or if it'll be limited time that you can order them in, because they're going to have them at the ballpark at the team shop. Um, but then they're also going to have them available the following day. I don't remember what website it is, but whoever they're working with for that, they're going to have them available there as well that you can order them. So again, I don't know if it's limited quantity overall or if it's just limited time that you have, like a certain time span you have to order them. But I think a lot of people would be kind of lucky if they're not right on top of it right when it drops, if they're not like right at the team shop when they unveil them, and if they're not right on the website refreshing the page and getting ready to put their orders in. I think it's going to be pretty difficult for a lot of people to end up getting those.
So I'll make a post, guys, about how you get them, where you get them. I'll find all that out once we get it up. We're pretty quick about getting information out on our Facebook page. Uh, other than Chandler fighting with AI to get it out on our page, but
Yeah, again, thanks for the advice. This is my first time trying to mess with stuff like that because um I've used Photoshop in the past, but it's so much faster if you kind of use AI. And it's not like we try to use necessarily AI generated photos. We'll take like actual photos, but then we will use AI to kind of like do the layout itself and just put whatever text that we want to put on there. Um, yeah, I was fighting, and then you showed me an example of what you put in to get a certain result, and I was like, okay, so like
detailed
more
is possible.
details is better.
Detailed is
Yeah.
possible. Yeah, guys, it was a Chandler sent me like 4 photos, and it's like, okay, that's not even Reese Hines. The second one didn't have his number correct. The third one was just flat out bad. The fourth one,
Yeah.
that's the one he posted. So, the one you guys saw that he got DFA'd. So, but yeah, that was funny. But
Plus, it doesn't help if I'm at work and I'm trying to break news. I have to use AI at that point. I'm not able to just use Photoshop. So I'm like, oh gosh.
and like Chandler said, it's not like we're using AI to generate photos for us. We basically,
Yeah.
I use those basically for the trade. Let's say the trade. I did make a post about that. We basically made it like, hey, can you make a good like alert flyer kind of? So we got that out. Like I said, I'll have
And we also pull the stats ourselves. We don't just use AI for the stats either. Like,
yeah, we're that's something we need to get better about
yeah.
too. But
Oh gosh.
guys, we sit here the day of before recording and pull stats. But we do watch the games, but the games that we can't watch, we'll look up the stats and stuff like that. Pull our own stats. but it's like pulling teeth every week to get you guys an episode out because we are consistent and we're not gonna quit getting episodes out. So we're gonna stay consistent even though we're last minute people. We'll get better, I promise, as the season goes on. Let it warm up outside. Let us get on normal schedules, and then we'll be able to get a normal episode out to you guys.
Yeah, well, I mean, the other thing is we could be talking about a certain player and have certain notes presented and everything, and then they go 4 for 5 with 3 home runs or whatever, and it's just like, okay, well, my whole entire thing that I have for this player is completely changed, and I have to redesign how I'm going to speak about this whole part of my topic. So it's a lot easier to take a lot of this stuff and, um, because we record these, Friday mornings typically. So we're like pulling the stats from all of the games leading up to Friday. So I mean, whatever happens on like a Thursday, it makes things a little bit more difficult. Obviously, today was easier because we had the off day yesterday. Next week we'll be in the same spot, but um, yeah, I don't want to like start typing up a bunch of stuff and then all of their stats change drastically, and I'm like, oh gosh.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's something we're gonna probably deal with all season, but we
It's a
kind of get
grind, but we love it.
we do love it. We do love it. We love getting information out to you guys. We love the episodes. Me and Chandler actually talked about doing off season. You're gonna start to see more stuff pop up on the Facebook page. Make sure you do go watch that. I will before we get too ahead of ourselves and try to end this. Um, I got the Cardinals and Mets series. That's who the Reds are playing next. We play the Cardinals for 3, and then the Mets for 3. Um, I don't know if you know this or not. They do not have the pitchers announced for the Mets series.
I thought you were just gonna say, I don't know if you know this or not, but the Mets suck this year. I don't know if we mentioned that last episode or not. I think we did, but I think we what was it we said? Are you suggesting sending Brady Singer to the Mets
Yes,
to make them
yes,
worse?
yes.
Well, after his last start, I'd really be fine with that. 5 earned runs. Yikes. Uh,
Well,
I'm trying to think of what updates we have on Hunter Green.
I don't see any as of right now. I
I,
will have an update. I will try to get an update out on Facebook on if we get one today. I'll try to get it out today, and then I'll absolutely get you guys the information on Suarez once I get information on him. If he's coming back tonight or the earliest Saturday. So
Also, to cover, in case anybody isn't quite aware of exactly what Hunter Green's out for. Yes, he did undergo an elbow surgery. It wasn't Tommy John. He had Tommy John when he was in the minor leagues, not long after he was drafted. Uh, but and I remember watching him get drafted too. He I was watching that whole draft on TV, and that was like one of the first times that I really started going through and going like, oh, I want the Reds to pick this guy or that guy or whatever. Like starting to really look at it. And he was a 2A player when he was drafted out of high school in California. He was a shortstop and a pitcher. Um, they ended up just trying to let him go the pitcher route. They thought he had more upside there because he threw so hard. He has had Tommy John surgery again, but this surgery that he had this year, it goes from an injury that he had stemming from last year, some discomfort in his elbow. There was bone chips, bone spurs, overall what they label as loose bodies. It could even be some torn cartilage. It doesn't, indicate necessarily that they have a torn UCL, which is what you'd have Tommy John surgery to repair. It's just small little fragments of bone or cartilage that are loose in the elbow. So his surgery, it would put him on pace to be back around, I would say, June, July. I think right now it's looking like he'll be back on. I think he starts a rehab assignment here soon, like early June, maybe is what they're shooting for, and then he'll be he'll be joining the big league club hopefully not too long after that. The same doctor that performed his surgery was having him just go through injections late last season and in the off season, and then they discovered that he needed to have actual surgery. He could have already had this taken care of once they got eliminated in the wild card series. That's a whole other different discussion. He could have been ready for spring training and everything. But point with me alluding to his surgeon is he has since had surgery on Edwin Diaz and also Tariq Skubal. And I want to say there was somebody else that's ran into a similar issue with that. I don't remember, was it Snell or Glass now of the Dodgers maybe? Um, they've invented the Nano Needle 2.0 little device. It's smaller and it allows their recovery time to be a lot shorter. Tariq Skubal was throwing again 2 weeks after having his surgery. Same thing that Hunter Green had. Tariq Skubal was back throwing in 2 weeks. He has now already had a bullpen session that he has had. At least one that I know of. So, unfortunately, Hunter Green did miss out on being able to have that version of the procedure done. But it doesn't change the fact that we are looking at having him back here soon.
Well, he does get back. But like I was talking about the Cardinals and Mets, Chandler's not going to be too happy about this. Neither am I. Chris Paddock's going for the first game. Brady
He pitched
Singer.
well in his first outing, though.
Brady Singer's going for the second game, and then Nick Lodolo is going for the third game. I don't know why it hasn't been announced, but the Reds have not announced the Mets series starters. So, like I said, guys, we'll get all that information out on Facebook. We're always, I believe Chandler's just like me. We're always looking for something to post. It's always in the back of our mind what we need to post on Facebook. So, and I believe Chandler's going to start posting on X too. So go follow the podcast on X. He's going to take care of the X. Me and him are kind of going to take care of the Facebook together. But if his AI skills don't take up, then I'll definitely get on the Facebook more.
Hey,
So,
X is also easier because you can just type in things in text and you don't necessarily have to always add a photo. Going off of the list of what their current setup has been within the rotation, right now we're on pace. Also, what a weird schedule that we have coming up because we're facing St. Louis at home for 3 games, then we're going to New York for 3 games, and then we're having an off day, and then we're coming back home to face the Braves the following weekend. Like, a little weird.
I've noticed that.
But obviously we'll get into that series and the following series next episode. But off the common theme, it looks like for the Mets series, it'll likely be Burns, Andrew Abbott, and Chris Paddock. So the Mets series should be pretty solid for us. Again, the Mets are struggling. We're going to have our best pitchers in that series. The Cardinals one's going to be a little bit more of the worrisome series. Lodolo, his first outing wasn't bad. He gave up 4 earned runs. We talked about it before, though. Like, it was 2 home runs. That was it. His second start was rough. His last start, 5 2/3 innings, 3 earned runs. He was 1 out away from having a quality start. So I think he's really getting closer. So I'd like to see everything really settle in and click for him this series, and then hopefully, even if we do drop the first 2 games, if Paddock has a bad outing, if Singer has another bad outing, uh, uh, hopefully Lodolo is able to pitch well enough that we can ride that momentum into the Mets series and perform really well against them. Truth be told, we're facing probably the worst team in our division. And by probably, I mean they are the worst team in our division this year, the St. Louis Cardinals. And we are facing, I want to say, the worst team in the NL East, the Mets.
They might be the worst team in baseball right now.
Well, that's kind of hard to believe because we still have the White Sox and the Rockies and a few others, but
The White Sox almost have the same record as the Reds. I think they're 25 and
yeah,
24 right now. But
I
we
was
always
I was watching a game. The Reds got done with their game. I think it was Sunday, and I was flipping through watching a bunch of different games, and I saw the White Sox, and I was like, dude, they're starting to click together now. The Mets, it kind of reminds me when they brought in like Verlander and Scherzer and a bunch of other guys, and then they just performed really poorly. Um, so it'll be interesting to see what the Mets do. But while they're struggling, let's try to attack them. I mean, we were able to take out the white hot Phillies. They were getting on a roll. We took 2 games out of 3 against them. If we can ride that momentum against St. Louis and the Mets, I think we have a solid chance at taking both of those series. Again, at least the Mets series.
right. Yeah, like you were talking about the White Sox. We know they haven't been relevant since like 2005. So what? They went like 60 and 102 last year. So, but anyway, guys, if you enjoyed this episode, please hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't yet. Tell tell all your people about our podcast. We love to do these, guys. Something me and Chandler enjoy doing every week. I'm not gonna lie. On a night shift schedule, this podcast is really hard, but I'm dedicated to you guys. Uh, I think Chandler works night shift too, if I remember right.
Yeah, I might get home like midnight. We kind of game plan briefly, and then I'll run on 5 hours of sleep and record this podcast.
Yeah, there's some times where I'm getting home at 6 a.m. and I'm back up at 10 o'clock to record the podcast. But that's something we're dedicated to. We want to keep the episodes going, keep it going throughout the season. See what new things we can bring up. Like I said, pay attention to our Facebook page. We got a lot of ideas coming out. Um,
Do you want to allude to some of those that we might be thinking
yeah,
of,
so
or do
we
we just
might.
want to leave those as surprises?
Ooh, I think we should leave it a surprise. Just a
Uh,
just like a cliffhanger.
yeah. If you, I'll put it this way: if you guys follow a bunch of other different accounts that or groups throughout the baseball community as a whole, right? When you look at all of them and you kind of see what some of the stuff that they're doing, you can kind of get somewhat of an idea of kind of ideas that we want to have. We don't want this to just be full long form podcasts. We want to look at um, also what can we do, in a little bit of shorter stints. Keep the engagements up. I know it's kind of easy to get lost in a podcast. So if you have shorter attention spans, if you just kind of want something that you can watch while you're doom scrolling, um, We all do it on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, whatever it may be. You can kind of start looking forward to maybe seeing some stuff like that.
Yeah, and maybe some stuff at the ballpark. Just maybe. I don't know yet, guys. You have to stay tuned and find out. But like I said, guys, we appreciate it. We love the support. Keep supporting. Keep liking the page. Um, YouTube, Facebook. I kind of run the TikTok page. I really don't. I'm not really on there, so there's no reason to follow that one. But X and then Facebook, if I haven't said that already, and Instagram, which I'll start posting on there more, and that's where most of our shorts will go. But you guys liked it. Hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't yet. Tell all the friends about it. And as Marty would say, this one belongs to the Reds. See you guys.